जब लाइव हो तो बताना। चलो भाई, तो हिस्ट्री ऑप्शनल, इट विल स्टार्ट अराउंड आफ्टर दिवाली, 25th March. 4 parts will be taken by a teacher each. I'll teach ancient history. Rohan sir will teach medieval history. Tariq sir will teach modern history. And Chandrabhan sir will teach world history. Ancient history from prehistory to 7th century. Medieval from 7th to 18th century. Modern from 18th century to 20th. And world history also comes from 18th century to 20th century. So this is the syllabus. And there are 4 separate teachers who will teach this. And the most important thing, that whatever test and revision, we would try to be as regular as possible. Any one of you have any doubt about this? किसी को अगर पहले कुछ पूछना हो तो ठीक है. So this will start on 25th October. And there are some prescribed books which I don't think you would ever need. What I would suggest, whatever class notes are given will be sufficient. But it's not very good that I talk about it. But if you ask about the past year students, so they will tell you whatever the class notes will be provided would be more than sufficient. Class notes provided would be more than sufficient. It will start from October and will end at the beginning of the April. So around 6 months, 5 to 6 months it will take, and the syllabus would be completed. Generally, I am sure you must have heard about the part of mapping. Anyone has any idea about the mapping of history optional? Question of mappings are asked. कुछ idea है आपको mapping का? तो map 50 marks of. अच्छा, first let me clarify the marks. So each is of 125 marks. 500 marks. Each paper is of 125 marks. In ancient and medieval, the mapping comes is of 50 marks. 50 marks of mapping. And entire of this, apart from mapping, 450 marks, is also covered in GS. So one thing about is whatever you are going to read is the syllabus of GS. And second thing, it is easier than GS. अभी ऐसे तो लगेगा कि I am saying because I am teaching this optional, but really it is easier. GS history is much more difficult than optional history. Let me give you an example. In GS history, they ask questions like, where you have seen lion and bull on Indian art forms. Anyone could tell me where you have seen lion and bull on Indian art forms? Lion and bull on Indian art forms. हाँ भाई, online those who are could type this. So this is a GS question. 2 years back, they asked where you have seen lion and bull on Indian art forms. In optional, they asked the question how Indian art forms are based on Indian religion and philosophy. Anyone could give me the example? You have seen lion in Tipu Sultan? There is no lion in Tipu Sultan. Haji. Indian art forms are based on Indian religions and philosophy. Any example of it? Or anyone of you have heard stoop? Stoop suna kisne? Sanchi stoop. Sanchi stoop is hemispherical in shape. Hemisphere means bubble, which is life, impermanent. So in optional, the types of question they ask where you can think on your own. In GS, they want you to know the exact things from the history. So that's why you would see almost same syllabus with a bit easier questions, because it is based on your understanding, out of which 50 marks is given to mapping. Generally considered the difficult part of the syllabus, but we will discuss mapping in the last 8 to 10 class in the easiest way. Let me show you how mapping is asked. Center of filmmaking. Any guess? Center of filmmaking. Modern city है, Mumbai. Capital of India, Delhi. A famous place where terrorist attack took place, Pulwama or Pahalgam. Meaning is, if you know about the history or the present, these 50 marks are relatively easy to score. But you should be aware of the history. If you are aware of the history, the 50 marks of mapping and rest 450 marks are of theory. Four different teachers will take it. They have their different style of teaching. I can talk about my teaching. So where I would guarantee that you do not need any book to read. The reason is there are two bulky books. Some of you have any idea of the books like Upinder Singh? I have no idea. Tried reading it. How you find that book? Nearly virtually impossible to read because first 250 pages are of archaeology, which is not even asked in the exam. There are books like Romila Thapar, R.S. Sharma. These are insufficient books because they are written in the old style where economy and society is the focus. Now UPSC is focusing on the religion also. So that's why in all of it, class notes are the thing which would be the only thing you have to read. So class notes, first thing, plus mapping, second thing. And third thing I would suggest, the only thing which is important for you is answer writing. If you guarantee that you will read the notes and would do the practice of answer writing, not only in history optional but even in your GS, it is guaranteed that you will be able to solve each and every question. The main thing is answer writing, which you will have to practice. Any one of you in GS ever saw at 9 PM students come for with their answers to get it checked? आप लोग में से कोई GS में कभी अगर आपने देखा हो तो 9 बजे स्टूडेंट आते हैं to get their answers checked. So if you can write these answers on everyday basis, so that will give you the confidence of cracking the exam. Otherwise, only reading is not sufficient. So it is made up of three things: class notes, mapping, and answer writing. Class would start from 5:30 to 8 official timing. It could be stretched beyond this based on the agreement of the student. If they like, it is stretched. If they do not like, so not stretched. Generally stretched. And you will have the classes every day. Whatever notes are will be provided in class and handouts. There is no need for any book for you because the reason is you will not be able to read those books. Either books are greatly insufficient. Say any one of you have heard in modern history Spectrum. Spectrum suno hoga na? That is an insufficient book. You don't need to read that. Either books are too technical for you, like Upinder Singh, the example I have given. So whatever class notes will be given, hopefully that would suffice. 4 teachers will take 4 parts. Sir, how can online student get their answers checked? So generally for that everyday answer checking, I make a group where online students send their answers. Main to they themselves check with each other, and second I also give the suggestion, and I'll tell you the method of answer writing. Answer writing is not only about writing an answer. Answer writing has 2 steps. Please guess, you get the marks for the depth of your answer or diversity of the answer? Depth or diversity, any guess? Always diversity. So in answer you have to ensure diversity. I will tell you the method of diversifying the answer. A question is asked about Gandhian non-violence movement. Yeah, Gandhian movement. So non-violence to everyone know. We have to write as much points as possible. And that's why your first duty is to diversify the points, know more and more. The more we will teach in the class, the easier you will be in your life. The reason is, it's not on you to read the things. You will never be able to read it. And that's why 4 teachers will take these topics. I'll take the ancient history and the mapping. If anyone has any question to ask, may ask. किसी पे कोई सवाल? हाँ जी, any online student want to ask anything? ठीक है. So, what do you do? What about NCRTs? NCRTs, whatever is needed, I'll give you underlined. Underlined NCRTs will be provided. I think in GS I have provided that already. So NCRTs are not very sufficient, but we will see into that. NCRTs, you could read it, good books, but not sufficient. That's why class notes. If you must have heard from any old students, so generally class notes in ancient I give around 500 to 600 pages. The reason is you should not need to read anything beyond that. That is the whole purpose of this coaching. अब आप imagine you are taking a coaching, giving fees, spending money, and still you have to read some other book. So that is not solving the purpose. फिर तो you can read everything on your own. So class notes will be more than sufficient. That's a guarantee. ठीक है. Maybe my methodology is more like handwritten notes more than handouts for everyone. Notes which are handwritten by you, which we ourselves write, that has no substitute. You must have seen it is much easy for you to revise your handwritten notes rather than the printed ones. The printed ones will be provided, but the basic notes are handwritten notes. What you write by your hands and which we dictate in the class. So don't worry about these notes. Notes is not available in Hindi language. भाई यह थोड़ा मुश्किल होगा, मतलब कठिन होगा. हिंदी में दे पाना तो यार will be a difficult task, है ना, because there are various terminology which you have to translate in Hindi. It's a dialecticism is something which you have to write in Hindi. तो हिंदी के notes I don't think will be able to provide, है ना. ठीक है, तो 3 things I'm guaranteeing. One is notes plus mapping plus answer writing. 4 parts of the history. And if anyone wants you to know about 4 parts of the history, ancient, medieval, modern, and world. And one more thing, which I do not want to discuss with the students so early. Some of you must have heard about historiography. Anyone heard what is historiography? Historiography suna hai? Historiography means interpretation of history. जैसे one example, if I tell you, by example I am telling, Ashok want his people to follow dhamma. Dharma. Dhamma छोड़ो, dharma. Ashok wants telling his people that you all follow dharma. Please tell me, Ashok is asking them to follow morality or Buddhism? Morality. Ashok sent his son and daughter to Sri Lanka to spread morality or Buddhism? Buddhism. Ashok is taking pride when he is making the pillars. Those animals on the pillars are related to Buddhism or morality? Buddhism. So here view is divided. Some say it is morality. Some say it is religion, Buddhism. Balancing this is historiography. You would see past many years questions are asked, Dhamma policy of Ashok. Yes, second thing you tell me, if British would not have come to this country, today you would be living a better life or a worse life. अगर अंग्रेज इस देश में ना आते तो आप बेहतर जीवन जी रहे होते या एक खराब जीवन जी रहे होते? If British would not have come to this country, you would be living a better life or a worse life? You would be living a better life. Without parliament, without judiciary, without civil services. So do you want to live back in 18th century kingdom? नहीं, वो तो ठीक बात है, wealth ले गए. Is it so simple a statement? So this is historiography. They will ask you to analyze the positives and negatives of British rule. Neither we ever say British had everything negative because our polity and our this administration is developed by them, but at a great cost also. So if you have to balance this answer, so 80% you will say bad, but 20% you will write the positive things also. Because you always get the marks for the depth or the diversity of the answer. Always diversity. Including these diverse points is called the historiography. So historiography is at the root of the history reading. History reading के root पे है. Anyone heard about Alauddin Khilji? सुना कि Alauddin Khilji? his market reforms, कोई अगर history background का हो, they were good for the economy or bad for the economy? Good for the economy. 3 years back, UPSC asked how Alauddin Khilji's market reforms devastated the economy. So you should be able to write same thing and its opposite also. If you are going into debate, I am sure you must be told to sometimes speak for the motion and sometimes against the motion. So historiography is you should be able to do both. Jaise if I make you the spokesperson of Congress, you should be able to speak bad about the present government policies. And if I make you the spokesperson of BJP, the same time you should be able to speak the positive about their policies also. So that part is called historiography. So at last, if you balance all these views, I think that would be the sufficient for you. ठीक बात है ना? तो 4 parts of the history, all the notes plus mapping plus answer writing plus historiography. This is what I could guarantee from my side. Me, I'm calling Chandrabhan San. He will talk to you and we will see. बुला लो भाई. हाँ, if anyone has to ask something, हाँ जाओ. All are controversial. Yes. It is based on the fact. Your judgment never means your judgment. Your judgment does never mean your judgment. Your judgment means standard judgments. Say once a question is asked in GS, if there would have been no Mahatma Gandhi, अगर गांधी जी होते ही ना, तो how India would have achieved its independence? बताएं आप अपना view. तो my suggestion is आप अपना view ना दें. आप ऐसा कर सकते हैं कि according to Gandhian scholars, Indian independence would have been very violent in nature. According to followers of Bhagat Singh, we do not want to, I'll tell you the name. We would have achieved independence earlier. पहले अचीव हो जाती. According to view जो आपने दिया, we would have been fragmented. According to socialists, our independence would have been much more egalitarian, जमींदारी reforms और ये सब होते. We would have got economic justice also. Economic justice. Gandhi ji kept it bourgeois, landlord control. समझ आई ना बात? तो this is how standard views are the diversity of the views. Your view means not your view exactly. Your view means standard view. जो standard view है वही view. That is historiography. जैसे मैं आपसे पूछूं आपका व्यू क्या है, तो आपका व्यू doesn't mean really your view. They are also standard views. ठीक है ना? The diversity of the views means historiography. So this balance this views. ठीक है ना? Anyone else? Any question? ठीक है सर.
Hello friends, I'm Mohammad Tariq and I'm going to take modern Indian history, complete right from the beginning till the very end, right? My other colleagues are going to take other parts, ancient, medieval and world history, okay? So what I'm going to tell in few minutes that how we should go for modern history and what we are already doing and what our students in the past who have cleared this exam, including some rankers and including rank number 1 with history. And those things you should know. The first thing you should know in modern history, as the other part of history, my colleague would tell, that the syllabus you have to understand carefully. What UPSC has written a topic, say freedom struggle, but you should know what does it mean. UPSC has written peasant movement, but what does it mean? It is our duty to tell the real explanation or meaning of each of those syllabus. And that is one of the key part in this exam, that decoding the syllabus. In most of the papers or what you get in the magazines, UPSC syllabus, it is written very superficially. Superficially means that they would just give the headlines of each. For instance, when they said freedom struggle and Gandhian movements and others, but what they may not have said that there are 2 types of freedom struggle in India, which you would learn in our classes. Like one freedom struggle is between Indians and English. This you all know. Say revolt of 1857 to 1942 Quit India movement. What you may not know, that there was another struggle between Indians and Indians. And a lot of questions nowadays they are asking between the second struggle rather than the first struggle. For instance, how the peasants in India had to struggle against zamindars and moneylenders, how the workers had to fight against the industrialist capitalists, how the Dalits had to fight against who? Upper caste. Good. How to how the women had to struggle against who? Men. Are you getting? Now, this struggle was earlier, say 30 years back, was not as prime topic of historians, researchers, which has become thanks to subaltern studies. Now, the subaltern studies in history is called history from below. Till now, history was written from above, means rulers, empires, kings, and even in medieval period, you heard it from nobility, ulama. These are all elitist history. But in the last 50 years in academic world and in UPSC in the last say 15 years, the questions are now shifted. Like a question was asked in your GS, and GS part of history and optional part of history is almost of the same standard. The question which was asked that both Gandhi and Ambedkar wanted to uplift Dalit, but their approaches were different. Now, in this question, whether it is asked in optional paper or in GS paper, this struggle is not against British. This is within Indians, but how the two giants of India, Gandhi and Ambedkar, saw caste differently, untouchab- untouchability differently, and even religion differently. Now, there was a question that both Gandhi and Tagore saw nationalism differently, though they were contemporaries, but how their views on Indian nationalism was different. For instance, Gandhi's nationalism was a territorial definition that this is India, and within this, all Indians are one. But Tagore nationalism is beyond geography, beyond boundaries. Whereas Jinnah's and Savarkar's nationalism was based on religion, which is called two nation. You must have heard Hindu is a nation, Muslim is a nation. And once you have religion as a basis, then your boundaries would be different. So, how in the same period, different Indians were clashing on ideologies, clashing on their interest. This becomes modern history very interesting, but new for many students because they are more aware with NCRT style freedom struggle, old school freedom struggle in which you had all non-cooperation, civil disobedience, quit India, all were against whom? British. But if you see Ahmedabad mill strike, it was not against British. It was Indian industrialists versus Indian factory workers. If you see trade union movement of 1920s, 30s and 40s, trade union movement means workers movement. These movements were between workers and industrialists. Whether the industrialists were Indians, like cotton textile mill owners were Indian in Ahmedabad. Cotton textile mill owners in Bombay were Indians. So the issue of workers in cotton textile was same as it was in jute industry in Calcutta. But in jute industries, the owners were English, workers were Indian. So, however, nationalists would support a boycott of English related goods, but if it is produced by Indian industrialists, they would not support that boycott. I hope you're getting not. This makes this topic little complex, little interesting, but I hope in our classes you would understand. So the point which I am trying to say that syllabus has to be decoded very well. Once you go a topic, what are the questions possible in that topic that you have to know in the very first few days, which we will definitely decode. Second, you have to understand the question pattern, how it is changing. year after year, whether objective type, subjective type. What is very interesting in UPSC, that they are no longer interested that you count the factual details of events of history. Events you have to know, any event, ancient, medieval, modern, or world, but events are connected, which we call connecting the dots. Now, many events are interrelated, and then they would frame a questions. For instance, there was a question which they asked, that do you think that mixing of Khilafat movement in non-cooperation movement compromised secular credential of Congress? Because Khilafat was a religious issue. Congress movement, Gandhian movement would be, should be what? Political movement. So how religion and politics were used, because of which today you are facing a big problem. One problem you saw, that is partition of India in 1947. And even today, you're not free from mixing up religion into politics. So our leaders from Tilak to Mahatma Gandhi had used to Ali brothers religion and politics. So the point in the question is that in that entire question, there would be some issue, there would be some point of discussion, and that point of discussion would become the basis of question, in which events you have to use to give your argument. Description of event is not they are asking. Students in Indian universities and colleges are generally trained to write long answers describing the chronology of event. And that is the one reason why large number of students who write main again and again and fail again and again, though they may clear prelim somehow. But what you should know, that out of say 13,000 people who clear prelims, 2,500 around students would be called for interview. What you may not know, we know it through our large sample size here in Vajiram and with our individual experiences of faculty, that out of 13,000 students who cleared this prelims, around 7,000 are those who would fail in main, not only this year, next year also, next to next year also, and they would keep clearing prelims, keep failing in main, unfortunately. Why so? Because they never prepared themselves for main examination, whether optional, whether GS, whether essay. Forget interview. You're getting now. Now here we are for optional, and I'm sure for GS also you would meet it. Here what we train to give you basic factual details which are needed, not too much, because that would be difficult for you to remember, as history would be full of events, right? Second important thing, that out of the say 50 events, how to choose top 10 events, because that distinction is very important in your life as well as in competitive examinations. So we will tell those 5, 6, 7 top events through our classes and notes, right? Second important thing, that how those events had to be connected with other events which I call, or even UPSC chairman only 3, 4 days back when he addressed on Doordarshan, and I watched his entire interview, and I was happy to see that he was just telling what we are already saying to our students since last 25 plus years, except one point when he said coaching is not needed. But that I understand every government officers and every government professors would say. It's a very idealistic thing. He has his own view, we have our own view. We know that in India, because of the large number of students, because of the size of exam, and because your level is not matching with the expectation of UPSC. So what you may do on your own in 4 to 5 years after reading history, you would get here in 6 to 7 months, because of the different faculties, and each faculties have worked very hard in their subject, and they're working also. They're working on daily basis, all of us, right? We are making our own notes, we are reading it from other sources which you can't afford to read it. Because if you're trying to read those history books and articles, you may become a historian, not an IS. I hope you understand this. And here it is a professional exam. That is why I beg to differ with my many senior professors in universities and bureaucrats. And what is ironical, those generally who opposes coaching, their children also studied in the same Rajendra Nagar or in Kota or in other places. It is very much like Indian politicians often say, we should promote Hindi in schools, right? Their children also studied in English medium, including those who said it very loudly, Mr. Mulayam Singh Yadav and Lalu Prasad Yadav, I remember, and where their children studied, you all know that. So this is another debate. So what my point is, because of the vastness of syllabus, because of the changing pattern, you need some guide. The guides would help you how to read the chapter. What to read, you would know in a day or two, which I will also tell you. But how to read that chapter, any such topic like I just told you about freedom struggle, we will discuss how to read peasant struggle. Like in 19th century, peasant struggle is different than 20th century. You must have heard Indigo Revolt, Deccan Riots, Pabna Revolt, right? How it is different from Awadh Kisan Sabha, how it is different from UP Kisan Sabha, Andhra Kisan Sabha. So these movements are different than the revolt of peasant in 19th century. That discipline you would get in just 2.5 hours with notes, pointers, and clarity. And once you have some major points, as Parveen sir just said rightly, that all those points in answer are very important. So every such causes and consequences, we will give you 5, 6 points, right? Each point would be followed by 2, 3 lines. That's it. Not to go in PhD level depth or even PG level depth. That is required in academic world. Here they expect some fundamental knowledge about topic, but how many points for causes, consequences, or impact, etc. And then each point should be explained in your own language. Now, this is also very important, that often the students copy teachers' language, books' language. We will train you how to internalize a topic in your own mind, and then how to write in your own language and style. And our teachers would keep regularly checking and giving marks and remarks. The idea behind is that you read, you revise, and you write. Few questions you can show us. That is just sample to know what is the standard required in UPSC. Once you know this is the bar, this is the standard, you can practice yourself. Then after completion, you join test series. Now, test series would be like a professional, I say often match practice. One is net practice, one is match practice before you go to finale. Like in cricket, before you go to international first play, Ranji Trophy, Irani Trophy, Dilip Trophy, then you go to India, Australia, India, Pakistan, India, England. Am I right? And net practice, I call like you do it daily, 1 question, 2 question, 1 week, 3 question, like that. That you can do on your own with the help of some faculty. Some mentors are here, had been appointed by Vajiram, and those mentors are also our good resource persons who had good experience of writing this exam or teaching somewhere, and they also have worked. So you have to utilize our entire resource pool, which very few institutions in India have done it. Since I came from a government institution after 15 years of teaching, there also I didn't see the same kind of resource pool, because the government institution in India, works on its own rules and bureaucratic hurdles. In private, one advantage is that when they see a need from the students, they can fill the gap quickly in no time. And that is the reason why some private institutions in what you call coaching has done better than someone else. And our late Ravindran sir was very instrumental in this, we all know, and he was himself a good teacher. So what happened, that he brought a very good practice, what is called academic practice here. And he chose his faculty and team of academic staff very carefully. and made the materials which is very resourceful. Now, it is up to you how you are going to utilize. Our job is to motivate you, to keep guiding you, to provide what is necessary, not what is not required. Because often students would end up with a lot of materials available in Rajendra Nagar, Mukherjee Nagar, Anna Nagar, Ashok Nagar, Allahabad, Patna, you know that. And students are often confused that what to read, what not to read, right? So the first thing which we suggest in our classes, that in every optional class, take class notes very seriously. Different teachers have different ways of giving notes, but most of would dictate also, would explain also. So you write the dictated in organized fashion, but also write what they are writing in abstract form while giving example, because the topic would be the same. So you're writing here and there whatever information the person is giving. But when you see that note, you can connect the dots as I was talking. Then the handouts each of us had made with our own sources, obviously books, lectures, etc. I have made my own, and my other colleagues have made their own. Use these two as your pillars. First two important, source material. The third and fourth would be like a standard textbook, which I will tell you once you join my class, so that my USP remains USP, not joking. But one is Bipan Chandra, you heard it, India's struggle for independence. One is Shikhar Bandyopadhyay, that is Plassey to Partition. What we believe, that do not read too many sources, but revise it as much as possible. One of my professor used to say, for competitive exam, if you have 10 books, donate 9, read 1, but read 10 times. You got the mantra? That instead of going this book, that book, what would happen? Because other 9 books would give you, hardly 20% additional material, but obviously at the cost of remembrance. So it's better to choose few materials, and already you would get most of these things, almost 90% in our two these things. One is class notes, one is printed materials. Just for raising the bar, the standard, the connecting the dots, the clarity, and different interpretation given by historians, we often suggest read at least 1 or 2 classical history books. And I'm sure my other colleagues would tell their own area. In my area, Bipan Chandra and Shikhar Bandyopadhyay, more than enough. Now, Sumit Sirkar also wrote, Ranjit Guha also wrote, Shahid Amin also wrote, lot of BL Grover also wrote. We have read it, we have made notes, and we will give you in the first and second, so you don't have to read it. It's almost like this. I call that Ramji in Ramayana got bear from Sabri. You know that? What would that? Sabri would taste the bear, you know this, and she would make sure that it is not sour, that it is not rotten, and only better one she is giving to Ramji, right? This lesson I learned, that I should not give it to you and then tell you, try and see how much this is useful. And you read the entire book and then you realize, oh my God, it is not useful. It is like after watching 3 hours a movie and I realized it was a very bakwas movie. I wasted my time while watching Harry Met Sachs. My wife forced me to go. I knew it is not good, but Begum ki baat hai, टाल नहीं सकते आप. Am I right? So in the interval, she also said, चलते हैं. That was so boring. I don't know you watched it or not. Though शाहरुख खान का नाम था, एक बड़ा स्टार है, अमिताभ बच्चन, शाहरुख खान, सबने फ्लॉप मूवी भी दी है. तो ऐसे ही बुक भी तो फ्लॉप हो सकता है. Flop in the sense not useful for you, maybe useful for someone else. But imagine after 1 month of reading, you realize this book was not any worth. That is why it is our responsibility that your time is precious. You should not read any book, any material, any article which is not used. If I read it and after reading I realize it is not of any use, I would not lose anything. Though I am very careful about choosing my uh, articles or books or movies or teleserials, unless I confirm that it is going to entertain me or enlighten me, then only I watch or read. You people have to be more cautious because your competition is obviously at the different level. And many students I know were very choosy, and that's a good strategy. So this we will help you how to be choosy in your materials, and then how to decode that topic in the class itself. Rest is simple revision and writing. So you can assure yourself that after completion of this course, there would be a sense of fulfillment that now it is entirely me, which I have to do, nothing left. Because what you would know, no other students in India can tell that they know better than you in terms of knowledge. It's only now the translation of knowledge on paper. You're getting not transformation from your mind to paper. Of course, that journey also you have to do with the help of our team, right? So we will be discussing some question answers, online people or offline, shortly. Before that, my another colleague, Mr. Chandrabhan, is coming to help you how to prepare for world history, right? So just few seconds and he would be coming.
Okay, I think I'm audible. So, I'll be taking your modern world history, which is a part of paper two. And because it is the orientation class, and I hope that you have gone through the syllabus. I'll be giving you an overview of modern world history because Praveen sir and Tariq sir have already covered about the overall strategy and what the classroom program would be like, how we are going to cover the syllabus, how we'll ensure that whatever you read in class, not only you are able to internalize, but you are able to write very good answers about it. Before we start preparation of any section of history, we must understand the syllabus very well so that we know what is the expectation of the commission from us from that area. How do we understand what is the expectation of the commission? One, by reading the syllabus, and second, by going through the PYQ. Many of you would have definitely covered, or some of you, I believe, who are from history background, would have read the same chapters of ancient India, some in medieval India, some modern India, some of world history in your college also. But you know that the type of preparation we require to do here is very different from what we do in our college life. And how do we differentiate that? Simply on the type of questions that they ask in college, the time period, the orientation, and the type of questions they ask here in the competitive examination. That is why, even if you have read it, the orientation has to change. First, this is a simple piece of advice. And if you have not read, for example, if you are from a non history background, then it is like starting from scratch. If I have to explain the syllabus of modern world history, are you aware about the syllabus? Syllabus देखा है आपने? Because those of you who are here online and offline students, I'm sure that when you come for, or when you think that I have chosen this subject as my optional, in this case it is history, then the first thing that you should do is to go through the syllabus, which will enable you to understand, number one, how much of effort has to be put over the next 6 months, and also what is the overlap in UPSC between history optional and history GS. Because one of the arguments which is often given against choosing this optional is that it is lengthy, no doubt about that. But then if you analyze the syllabus pretty well, or if you just go through the GS syllabus of prelims and mains and history optional, you will see a lot of overlap. That is why your preparation for history optional must begin by going through the syllabus first. If you see the modern world history syllabus, interpreting the syllabus very briefly, it is very, very important. What do we read in modern world history? ये समझना बहुत जरूरी है. Is it about a set of chapters? If it is, then how are they connected? Because unlike Indian history, which is more linear in its orientation, where we have a sequential approach, we start from Stone Age, and then we study entire ancient India, then we go to medieval India, early medieval, then modern India, then post-independence. So we have a sequence. We have a fixed geography and a civilization where we do all this analysis. And then the advantage also is that our greater familiarity with the Indic history. Even if, or even before you started thinking about preparing for UPSC, we have come across many of the historical figures of ancient India, events of ancient India, medieval India, modern India. However, the approach or the situation is quite different in terms of world history, where we are not fixated on one civilization, where we don't study a history of a country. We don't study only America. We study France also. We come across Germany also. We come across Britain at multiple occasions, Russia, China, Africa, Asia. Is it, guys? So it is very, very important that when we start the preparation of modern world history, to understand that how to interpret the syllabus. That is what briefly I will tell you. As far as the sources are concerned, I can say that we would do a lot of hard work, and the class notes will be the only source that we will refer to during the preparation and after the preparation also. It will be a hard work. We'll be putting a lot of effort, but we will ensure that apart from the class notes, because time is less, we cannot afford to. There are very good books on world history. Every year, some new book comes with a fresh perspective. But the purpose why we have assembled here is to complete the syllabus, internalize the syllabus, process it, and write very good answers. Maybe after that, if we have interest in this area, we can pursue higher studies after joining event services. How do we interpret the history of modern world? कैसे पढ़ें? I would say that the history of modern world can be divided into 8 major themes, or you can say 8 major arcs. ये हमेशा याद रखिएगा. When we study the history of modern world, we divide it, or we study it in the form of 8 subheadings. And then we will see how each of them are linked also. First is the birth of modernity. The 15th century to 18th century is this period which is called as the period of arrival of modernity in Europe. क्या पढ़ते हैं आप इसमें? समझिए. We study Renaissance, we study Reformation, we study scientific revolution, we study enlightenment. यही पढ़ते हैं ना, Renaissance, Reformation, scientific revolution and enlightenment. What do we study here? We see that in this period we see how man was, or how Europe was able to come out of dark ages. How before 15th century in Europe there was dark ages, there was feudalism, people were obsessed with religion, church was very dominant, mindset of the people was closed, and they believed that everything on earth is controlled by God. There was a divine centric view of life. There was political instability. Europe was not always dominant, because when we study modern world history, we study the European domination of the world. पढ़ते ना आप? The period from 16th century to Second World War is a period where European countries dominated the world, whether it is in politics, whether it is in economy, or in terms of ideology also. We will discuss Eurocentric view of the world. We will study the history of the world from the perspective of Europe. Europe की तरफ से हम पढ़ेंगे, है ना? And why do we follow this? Because we read and we will understand that most of the modern ideas. किसी ने पूछा कि sir, why do we have to study the history of America? We have to study the history of America to understand the birth of democracy. We have to understand the history of America to understand how a nation was born, and that nation made the first experiment to have an elected president. We study the history of America to study how to have a written constitution. So why we do study world history? To understand the origin of many of the ideas and principles that has shaped the modern world. So before man made machine, man discovered oneself. This is the period of discovery of man and the world. We see that how European society and the people in Europe, they started coming out of this excessive obsession with religion. We see the birth or the seeds of secularism in this period. What is secularism? Is an ideology which defines the relation between state and religious institutions. That is secularism. हम यही पढ़ेंगे. And then we will see the rise of enlightenment. Enlightenment. Who are the thinkers whose ideas have shaped the modern revolutions? John Locke, Rousseau, Voltaire, Montesquieu, Jeremy Bentham, Adam Smith. So पहला जो section है, the first theme in which there are a number of chapters is the birth of modernity and what gave rise to modernity in Europe. Second theme, we study age of revolutions. Especially, we read American Revolution and French Revolution. क्यों पढ़ते हैं हम American Revolution, French Revolution? Few years back in GS में UPSC ने क्वेश्चन पूछा, how the modern world has been shaped by the ideas of American Revolution and French Revolution. GS में पूछा. So we understand that American Revolution was not only the first instance of decolonization, where a colony were able to overthrow colonial power, but they brought a series of political changes: democracy, republicanism, is it guys? Bill of Rights, written constitution. So they were able to, American Revolution was the first instance where what was written by Enlightenment philosophers was actually given a political shape. जो जॉन लॉक ने कहा वो अमेरिकन्स ने करके दिखाया. Do you understand? What Adam Smith had written in his Wealth of Nations, that was put into practice in an independent America. And then comes a bigger revolution, which is in fact an example of a complete revolution. हम पढ़ेंगे French Revolution. अभी recently नेपाल witnessed a lot of anger on the streets. People came out on the streets and forced the government to step down. Last year it happened in Bangladesh. Then it happened a few years back in Sri Lanka. So in the recent memory, we are seeing public upheaval and outbursts because of the prevailing resentment and anger and dissatisfaction. But पहली बार कब हुआ था on a larger scale? French Revolution. French Revolution was an expression of collective will which was able to overthrow a monarchy. So French Revolution, this time UPSC asked a question in GS. आप optional तो छोड़िए. How the ideas of French Revolution is relevant in the current times. Why? Because they want you to understand that what you read in history is not just about events. World history is not just about events, but it is also about a struggle between power, between humanity, and between ideas. We will see, we will study the changes in Europe and then the world through revolutions. We'll see American Revolution and French Revolution. Very important. And then American Revolution did a lot of good things, but did not address the issue of blacks. Then in America, another major upheaval happened, American Civil War. We will see how the American Civil War intensified cotton cultivation in India, modern India, world history overlap. Third, we study Industrial Revolution. (1750s) to 1850s, and then later on also. If French Revolution showed what men thought, Industrial Revolution showed how men lived in the modern times. Industrial Revolution was an instance where we made machines which helped us to overcome a lot of barriers. A lot of money was generated. Rise of modern capitalism, hum padhenge. But then it created problems also. Exploitation of the working class. In response to industrial capitalism emerged another ideology. What is that? Socialism. So you'll understand the rise of socialism in Europe. Industrial Revolution. Adam Smith had once said that the accidental discovery of America and the beginning of Industrial Revolution changed the destiny of Europe. J.D. Diamond writes in his book, Guns, Germs and Steel, that Europeans were able to dominate the world because they had superior weapons, gunpowder, which they first brought from China, germs, which they were lucky. Germs means epidemics that developed herd immunity, and steel means the power of industrialization. And then we'll see when Industrial Revolution happened in England and in Europe, what happened in India? Deindustrialization. How India, which was a net exporter of commodities, became an exporter of raw materials and an importer of finished goods. It was disastrous for us. So you'll see a lot of parallels, between Indian history and world history. Fourth, we'll study the age of nationalism, 19th century. A new ideology, also an emotion, would govern the formation of states, nation states. Pehle kingdoms hote the. Now we'll see this. And 19th century was also the period of imperialism. More and more of Asia, more and more of Africa came under the control of European powers. Africa को dark continent कहा जाता है. Why Africa is called as dark continent? Because Europeans had no knowledge of Africa. It was very difficult to explore and get inside Africa. Malaria, tribals, rain. They were able to overcome all these obstacles and hurdles through technology. And then Africa was colonized. Few months back, Xi Jinping, in his speech, had given a term which has become very popular, century of humiliation. What is the history of China? How China, which used to be so advanced, was subordinated by European powers, and what is scramble for China? Why this period from 1850s to 1949 is called as century of humiliation? What explains for the rise of the Chinese dragon? How come the China which was so backward today is at level or even at above par with US? Today we are in an era of Cold War 2.0, US versus China, रशिया नहीं है, ये पढ़ते हैं. Fifth theme, we come to 20th century, guys. 20th century is the age of crisis. Age of crisis and conflicts. We'll study World War I, World War II, and then three competing ideologies will emerge in the first half of 19th century. Which are the three ideologies? Liberalism, first front. Socialism, communism, Russia, second front. And third is Nazism, fascism. है ना? आप पढ़ते हो, Second World War was at three fronts. First, second, third. But then first and second front came together and fought against whom? Third front, Nazism, fascism. And what happened in Second World War? But did the conflict end here? No. Then we come across the sixth theme, that is fall of Europe. And the rise of a new conflict between first front and second front. And what is this conflict? Cold War, which is a very strange type of war between US-led capitalist bloc and Russia-led Soviet bloc. कभी डायरेक्ट नहीं लड़े, बट हमेशा लड़ाई की तैयारी करते हैं. Netflix came up with recently a series last year, The Ideology of Bomb. There was an obsession with making bombs and weapons of mass destruction. So 20th century revealed the ugly side of science. What is that? Weapons of mass destruction. We created a weapon which can wipe out life from the face of the earth in less than 8 minutes. And more destructive bombs. But in this period, we also see the rise of Third World, who formed NAM. They did not want to be a part of this tussle. They said, we don't want to join the first bloc. We don't want to join the second bloc, capitalist bloc, communist bloc. We want to remain independent. Fall of Europe. This is the sixth theme. And the seventh theme is end of Cold War, which resulted in the age of globalization. The world is flat. We'll see the period from 1991 to 2008 was the period of hegemony of US. 2008 में American subprime crisis and the decline of US starts and the rise of China. So largely your syllabus revolves around these 7 themes. और इसके अलावा the 8th, which I said, are the meta themes which prevail in all the period, like the conflict between individualism versus institutionalism, idea of human rights, power struggle, changing balance of power. All these are the themes which we will keep on discussing here. So, briefly, I had to tell you that when you study modern world history, don't see it in terms of chapters, see it in 2 ways. What are the ideas that has shaped the modern world and what gave rise to these ideas. अगर हम liberalism पढ़ते हैं तो we must understand what gave rise to liberalism. Then we study enlightenment and American Revolution. When we study nationalism, then we study American Revolution and French Revolution. When we study socialism, we study Russian Revolution, Marxism. This is how you develop a contextual and a philosophical approach which will enable you to not only answer questions of optional, but in the recent times GS also. Now the GS questions are also not very straightforward, that they will ask a cause and effect. For now, I have to say only this, and now I leave the forum. Tariq sir has joined. We'll start with whatever doubts you have, please do ask. And online students, kindly turn on your camera also, sir, please.
Thank you. So you all are welcome now to raise any type of question, and please
Yes,
come
yes.
here. We can take like question one candidate is asking, is history lengthy optional? This is one of the most common asked question. But we know UPSC, as chairman have also said few days back, is a level playing game. Science, arts, commerce, history, geography, polity, mathematics. Inside the chapters, they are same. From outside, it may look big or small. For instance, when you see public administration, one chapter for the thoughts, it looks one chapter, but once you go inside, it would be equivalent to 6 history chapters. So when you see from outside, there are 6 history chapters. In public ad, it is 1. But once go inside, then you would see 6. So the length is almost same. Second, that in every subject, like Chandrabhan Sahib would agree, we have divided some topics as very relevant. Some you can skip without taking any risks. This is also an art. With our experience, you would know. So it is further reduced. You got it?
Yes.
Yeah, if you want to add.
No, sir, I agree.
Idhar Raja, please. How to remind those names, places, years in history, quite difficult. You want to add something?
See, number one, UPSC does not want you to remember all the dates and names. Also, if you find difficulty in mentioning the date, for example, Treaty of Westphalia 1648, you don't remember 1648, but you know that it is very relevant. You can write mid 17th century. That's okay. They will never deduct your marks. Also, because we will emphasize more and more on certain events in world history, ancient, medieval, modern. So invariably, because we'll be referring to it more and more, so we'll end up having the memory of it. You don't have to make an extra effort. They will never ask a question in optional that arrange the following battles in the world history in the sequence of their events. No. Or in American Evolution, we come across so many acts. You don't have to remember all the acts, but you will understand what is the idea behind these acts, why they were passed by the British and why the Americans were not happy. So you don't have to make that effort, which we see generally in state services examination, where they ask very distinct fact-based questions. Here the nature of questions are analytical, so please don't worry.
And just to continue this, in the main exam, suppose you're writing 16th of October 1905, partition of Bengal was implemented, right? Now you have a fear I may forget 16th or 17th. So write October 1905. Nobody would say it is wrong. You may forget October or November. Just write in 1905. Now suppose you're writing Akbar's period, 1556 to 1605. Suppose you're writing Kabir, the famous Bhakti saint, that was in 1440 to 1520. You may forget this, but you know that this is 16th and early 17th century. This is 15th and 16th century. So when you write in your answer, Kabir belonged to 15th, 16th century. Buddha belonged to 5th, 6th, 5th century BC. More than enough. UPSC is never going to test your memory. I told you, they are going to test your intelligence. Most professors in India of any subject do not know the factual details. But they're professors, they're scientists. Most IAS officers would not know the factual details as a clerk in the same department would know. But a clerk is a clerk. An IAS is an IAS. So the IAS or the bureaucrat should have a broader understanding of a topic. A good student of civil services should have a broader understanding that Akbar belonged to 16th century. That's it. And whatever the most important events happen, say Napoleon Bonaparte, you may forget exactly when he was ruler, say 1798, 99 to 1814, right? But you know he was in early 18th century or early 19th century, late 18th century. Enough. This would remove the fear psychosis that history means date. Names, of course, of persons are important. Names, of course, of places are important when you write. Say, when I say Pabna uprising, so in 1773, so 2, 3 times when you write, you know where is Pabna in East Bengal. That's it. So it's all a rehearsal, all a practice. So do not worry about this one, right? Kushal is asking something.
Shekhar Bandyopadhyay.
Shikhar
somebody asked.
Bandyopadhyay is good book. A spectrum is a guide. Please be careful. A spectrum or any guide is a copy and paste from here and there. History and social sciences are interpretation by the experts who have done researches on that one. Your questions are asked not from a spectrum. Questions are asked from the debates which is already in the textbook or in the classes. No third options, you have it, right? A spectrum or any other guide can help at the best in getting chronology, getting dates, getting events, etc. And if you supplement it, but we are already giving you so many supplementary, our own yellow book in Vajiram, our own handouts are providing. So what is the need of that one? Is it clear? So do not obsessed with too many facts and too many textbook, right? Maximum marks my students got 309, 306, 296, 280 plus. You all can get it with the formula which we have given and going to give you in our class. Once you get 260 plus in your optional and in your GS and essay, you are just national average. What people get it, say 410, 420 in GS, 125 to 120 in essay, you would be called for interview. That is for sure. You're getting note? That's the average mark. But our target is to make sure you get 280 plus. And then it would guarantee that whatever marks you get in other paper, your name is in the list. But of course, as you know, it's a combination of papers, that GS, essay, interview, which gives you rank. So at least option should not become the reason for your failure. That is what our emphasis is here. And with a whole lot of faculty for general studies, even your GS here would be better than anywhere else that we know very well, right? Yes, Kandaban sir.
Sir, a question has been asked, how much time do we have to give for history optional? The
Yeah,
classroom program will be for 6 months, and obviously after the class you are supposed to revise what is done. You will be having tests. Online students will be sharing our email ID, and also on the portal you can submit the answers, which will be checked by the faculty and they connect with you. Don't worry, there is nothing like that. The medium of instruction shall be strictly English. That is why we are also interacting in English. And I think we shall be clear about the fact that if we are going to write the examination in English, the more of the interaction we have in English would be better. Although we don't shy away from speaking Hindi, all of us are from the Hindi belt, but because we are going to write in English, so I think some of the students are saying that why don't we speak in Hindi? That is the primary reason.
And we have Tamil and Telugu friends also.
Yes.
So in the classes, when I sometimes quote Urdu couplet, though I do translate, but some people may feel that I have said something very important, so it is unfair to them also. And don't forget, this class officially is in English medium.
That is the reason, yes.
And you are officially enrolled in English medium. English medium. So had we committed that we are doing in Hindi medium also, or some people I know in some part of India called bilingual, then obviously you could have asked this one. But it is unfair because this class would be purely in English medium, and some people may occasionally use to anecdote, some joke, some poetry, not the topic. So please don't expect that we are going to tell in Hindi. Otherwise, the entire syllabus would be in 1 year plus. I hope you understand this. So please do not have any kind of illusion, as this is purely in English medium. All coaching in Vajiram, GS, SA optional are in English medium. Even interviews here are in English medium, right? Yes.
Let me add, four of us will be taking the course. Tariq sir will be taking modern Indian history. I'll be with sir in teaching modern world history. Paper two, Indian history, modern world history. Paper one, Praveen Dikshit sir will be taking ancient India along with the mapping, and Rohan Srivastav sir will be taking your early medieval and medieval history. So that is the the distribution of the course across the faculties.
Yes, you people can ask.
Do class timing stretch a lot?
No, actually, the class timings are very well scientifically designed after discussion with all faculty, UPSC calendar. And don't forget, we have plenty of experiences of teaching a lot of batches. You would be shocked to know that what in universities, history is taught in 3 years, you are getting in 5 to 6 months with greatest possible detail. I taught, as I told, in a central university, both for honors and PG, including for JRF net exam. But there to teach just one chapter requires 3 days. Here you can't afford whether GS or optional. So we have made a very interesting lecture plan, which itself took time. That is why our classes are 2.5 hours. So that in one class, one big topic is completed. And since most of you have to write this exam in a bracket of 2 calendar years, I hope you have not come here with a 5 year plan, right? So obviously, we have to make sure our syllabus is finished well in time. And Vajiram may be the only institution in India which took classes or even on the Shehra. You know that, which is commitment. And what is interesting, our students also came in large number. So one of my professor used to say, sacrifice your one Diwali of life, your whole life would become Diwali. You're getting this point? This is very important principle, that if you want to achieve something big, you have to sacrifice little comfort, little parties, little festivals. And all my students have sacrificed in the past, so that is why they are here. So any profession at the top level, you must have seen when cricket match is happening on the same day Deepavali also took place. Players, policemen did not celebrate, but they are on their duty. So it's like your duty start from here. And forget about all your social working, for social networking, at least for 2 calendar years, and see you would reap the harvest for whole life. That's the beauty of this exam cracking, right? Yes, please. Quick question, लीजिए sir.
7
All
days.
7 days. All 7 days, no holidays. Are you getting it or not? In fact, right now, to make sure we complete, we are taking 2 classes also, uh, at least some portion. Say last 1 month, it may happen. Already it is happening. But generally, it would be one class, right? In emergency, 2 classes. So no holiday, as I told, even on the Shahra. That should, you can say. And our teachers are coming, they also have families and want to celebrate. Many of them went at 9 p.m. on that the Dashera day, right? So you also have to sacrifice little, as the teachers and the staff members, they're also sacrificing, because we are committed for a cause, and the cause is your success. So do not worry about this is small things about timing, etc. That is very well planned, very well managed here. And all the 4 faculties would be here, and we may interchange. Yes, if I'm not available, he would be taking, and vice versa. But it is planned in a very professional manner, right? Yeah. Yeah, please. Yes. Okay, so let me read out her question. She's asking that in graduation days, historians have to be quoted, debates based questions about Marxist nationalists, subaltern historians, and sometimes they give it. I did also from history honors and PG and post PG. So we did a lot of, and we were very happy to write. Bipan Chandra said, Irfan Habib said, Romila Thapar said, we would remember it. In IAS, in fact, it is not required. Okay, as I told, and my colleague also said it. They are not interested what Bipan Chandra, Sumit Sarkar, Romila Thapar, R.S. Sharma said. They are interested what you understood. You get my point? Because that the courses are designed for academic purpose with the hope that you one day would join school teaching, university teaching. You're getting? That is how their entire course is designed. No university courses are designed according to UPSC syllabus. They design according to academic requirement of the subject. I was part of, luckily I was a syllabus committee also in university, and one syllabus committee in which I was a member was exclusively for competitive exams of various types. So we had to include and exclude something which is taught in history political science department. You understood this? So here please don't forget that the task is to crack civil service, not to become academician. So they are not interested in quotes of those. That is why I told you only one or two textbook, not even research book. You know, research book that only on economic history, Bipan Chandra wrote economic history of modern India. Only on economic history, Irfan Habib wrote agrarian structure of Mughal India. Only on feudalism, R.S. Sharma wrote a book. Only on Ashoka and decline of Mauryan Empire, Romila Thapar wrote a book. That is not required here because this is not academic exam. So of course I know that in the books it is scattered, say in 20, 30 books and articles, and that is where our role becomes very crucial, that each of these faculty are reading various books and articles. And in fact, those whosoever are taking optional in Vajiram, they do not get time even at their home, because every day they have to read those older one, newer one which came recently to add upon, so that you don't have to go with that mill. But of course we have to give in our notes, in our clarity, and in the question answers. Clear? Yeah, please. Good. I'm happy that you got the sense of the question, which she's asking that in the last few years, including this year, the question is interlinkages between Indian history, world history, ancient history, modern history. This I keep telling in every classes, that interlinkages of dots, you know, that connection of dots, because history is not like only on Champaran they would ask a question. They would ask Gandhian method of mass mobilization, in which Champaran to non-cooperation to 1928 Bardoli to 1930-31 civil disobedience to 1942 Quit India movement, all put together, and then making a question on Gandhian method. So I call this type of exam is like this. One is boxing type exam, in which you have two players, one referee, huge rules. You cannot go beyond box. And one is WWE exam. You heard it, WWE match? Two players and no rules, or if there is any rule, I don't know. You have to make a rule. So this I call open-ended question, like role of women during freedom struggle. Now you have to start from Rani Lakshmi Bai, maybe ending at Sucheta Kirpalani. Same question, role of women in post-independent India. Now you have to scan women from politics, economy, environment, science, cinema, sports, women in Chipko movement, the tribal women. Are you getting? And then make an answer of that one. Now this is very good, in fact, because it is giving you an opportunity to explore your intellect. It is not only from book. It is from overall understanding and knowledge. So because don't forget, UPSC exam is all applied exam. Applied, that whatever knowledge you have, can you apply in real life? It is not purely going to be in the shelves of library. Like most PhDs in India are kept in shelf, never to be read again by the person who himself had done PhD, unfortunately. Are you getting not? UPSC do not want such kind of bureaucrats. If you read it, make sure you apply in your district, in your block, in the secretariat. So that knowledge is required. That is why it is interlinkages. That is why when they ask that, do you think, I think it was in your world history, that Suez Canal dispute led to the fall of British Empire or challenge the British hegemony and the rise of Americans, right? Now, today, what led to the rise of China and this American hegemony is in question. Just like after USSR collapsed, how the world was supposed to be from bipolar to unipolar, but many people thought it would be multipolar. But has it become multipolar or not? It's a debate, which I'm sure your world history teacher and IR teacher would tell better. So this interlinkages, multiple events are interesting and much better than a very specific boxing type question, because here what happens, you hit or you miss. If you know it, you can write very well. If you don't know it, you cannot experiment. Here you can explore, and that gives you plenty of options, right? Yes. Can you take this question, please?
So, a question which has been asked by some of the students is offline better than online, or which is the best medium? I think this is a decision that you should take. If you are already in Delhi NCR, then it is better to come to the classes, because in class definitely it is more lively interaction. You have more access to the faculty. But if you are not in Delhi NCR, then it makes no point for you to spend so much of money and also to settle here just for optional classes, because all the guidance, the classroom teaching is same. We are available even for online students in all capacity. The test papers are evaluated by the faculty, and then the scanned copies are shared with them. Even after the class, if students want to reach out, then through email, sometimes they even get to call the faculties in the slotted time. So it is not much of a disadvantage if you take online also. But I would again say in the end that this is something that you have to decide. We offer both, and the same content is delivered in a hybrid medium. Means students are there in the class, and in the Zoom students attend it online also. So we don't have separate courses now.
This debate would continue for another 1 decade in India. Online versus offline. Both has its own pros and cons. And as sir rightly said, if you are in Delhi and NCR, please come. Or even if you are, say, in nearby Delhi, once in a month, 2-3 days, you can come and have a feel in the class. You smell and you can see the heat, and emotions is more in classes, right? So obviously, off the camera, on the camera, that is another debate, but both has its own. But point is that you get it. What we are discussing is the key point here, so you won't lose it whether it is offline or online. That is pure psychological also, right? Yes. Any other questions you people have? Any related to preparation or history? Or you can see some question if you
Yes,
have.
I am going through.
Yes.
So we'll be starting the course on 25th. Some of you have asked about the date.
Yeah.
For now, what we suggest is that today is say 6th. So whenever you join the course, it is better that you start interacting with the faculty and you start doing some background reading. Even if you are from history background, it makes more sense to spend this time, so that by the time the classes begin on 25th, you have already done some bit of homework and you feel more comfortable.
Yeah.
So don't wait for the classes.
Rohan sir would also teach, somebody is asking.
Yes, I already have.
Yeah,
answered
medieval
this.
history.
We'll be completing our optional program classes by March. By March, we'll be doing it in all capacity. Too much of value addition. The entire course is a value addition based course. So we don't have to do a value addition separately. Every content that is taught in the class, right from the basics to the level what is required for UPSC, it is done in a comprehensive way. So it's not that we teach basics first in the class and then we do value addition. No, not like that. That is why we work so hard collectively, having classes 7 days, trying to ensure that although the time frame for the classes is 2.5 hours, but we ensure that whatever is taught you are able to process and analyze, so that we don't want to rush it. It is better to take some time and understand and command a concept rather than to rush it and then regret later.
And we start from the basics, then almost take you to up to PG level in the same 2.5 hours. That is very much possible, and we have done it. So do not worry about that. There should be a separate value addition class. Within 1 week to 10 days, you would be accustomed with our terms, with our speed, language, communication. And then in that class to class, say first 20-30 minutes, the basics of the topic, then the next 30-40 minutes, another level, then the last 30, the highest level. And with the question answers, which you would ask, your colleagues online would ask, and the answers, you learn more. So that is why what we expect, as we have done in the past, a two-way dialogue. It should not be a one-way communication. And do not hesitate in asking questions. Do not believe that this question is ordinary and should I ask or should not. So it's better to ask here rather than regret in UPSC exam hall, and have a clarity. And we are also very happy because some of your questions may shock us, may surprise us, may force us to think again, read again the same topic. And many students have done in the past. So I learned long back, a good student can make an average teacher a great teacher. You're getting my point? So we expect that you're a good student, and you also would help us in our own evolution. You understand this? So do not worry about that part.
So some of the students are asking that they will be appearing for 2027. So after this batch, we'll again have our next batch in April. So few of you who are going to appear, if you don't have time now, you are caught up with the semester examinations or college, you can definitely join. Till then, maybe you can connect us with respect to what has to be done till then, whatever time. We'll be more than happy to help you. And then in April, when we'll have our next batch next year, please join it as soon as possible.
And when you have option, I would suggest first do optional, then you do GS, so that you have enough time for option post coaching, for revision and for writing, because optional and essay are going to be key decisive factor in the selection before interview. Of course, interview marks is also important, but it is optional and essay. And in GS 1, 2, 3, 4, it is GS paper 4, which has a huge swing, as low as 70, as high as 140. In GS paper 1 to 3 of your general studies, generally you would hover between 90 to 110. But in optional, the gap is as big as 200, 300, 190 to 280. In essay also, somebody would get 90, somebody would get 130. And finally, in interview, even in interview, the range of marks is huge, that in just half an hour, somebody is getting 120, somebody is getting 180, and see the gap between 120 and 180. So we are not talking about interview, but we are talking about optional, paper 4 of GS, ethics and morality, and essay. These are game changers. And in optional, don't forget 500 marks. This is why I said the moment you get 260, 270, you are in a very safe zone. And all you have to do it in other parts, just be at the national level, which is the common average marks, right? Yes, any other question you have? Yeah. In every knowledge in the world, whether you GS, your common day-to-day conversation, facts are key. Without facts, you cannot talk with any person intellectually. You're getting? But how much fact? This is what I said, that too much facts would make you a clerk, not an officer. Too much facts may make may win you a KBC program or some quiz program. So you have to have some basic facts. You understand this? And then most important is analysis of the fact, interpretation of that fact, and conclusion based on the discussion. These are required in higher exams. So some basic facts, when you repeat, as I said, name, as I said, place, as an event, you may forget 20th of April 1526 was the first battle of Panipat. You may forget 5th of November 1556. You may forget 14th of January 1761, first, second, third battle of Panipat. But you may not forget 1526, 1556, 1761. Even if you forget, what is the solution I gave you? That in the first half, in the second half, in the third half of 16th century, are you getting? So a lot of facts. And like suppose Mahatma Gandhi visited Champaran along with 7 people, 8 people. You may forget this fact. So after Gandhi, Rajendra Prasad, and Bhula Bhai Desai, Mahadev Desai, right, etc. After 2 3 facts, this is a smart way, because your focus is not how many people went with Mahatma Gandhi, but the focus is what was the issue at Champaran. That was indigo cultivation. So this is what I said, that facts should not frighten you. Believe me, you have to remember in economics also various facts. In constitution you have to remember fact. In geography you have to remember various facts. Tell me any subject in which you do not have to remember fact. But in each subject, minimum facts are required. Actually, it is the prelims exam which has frightened the students more about the facts. Mains had never. And you would surprised to know, relatively main exam is much organized, predictable, and possible. Prelims, because of the unlimited area which it covers, and some of the very what is called dark area, that you're surprised even after reading so many things. And the question which was asked, that the ship with which Mahatma Gandhi came, what was the name of the ship? You can't get it in every book. So that may be a problem in prelims. For that, of course, our GS team would help. But in optional, do not worry about fact at all. And about world history, you can add how many
Yes.
facts is required.
And let me be very honest, UPSC is a knowledge based examination. And when you have a knowledge based examination where you are argumentative, obviously you have to substantiate with facts. Because a person who does not authenticate whatever your opinion is with facts, that argument looks hollow. So it is no doubt about that. In UPSC, we have to remember so many things. But the good part is that you don't have to mug up. You have to understand and then understand. For example, in geography, you read different types of plate tectonic phenomena. You read various landforms. पढ़ते हैं ना? You read different type of soil profile across India. So obviously, this is a knowledge-based examination. It is not just an examination of intellect, because an examination of intellect is say CAT. There also you have to remember so many synonyms, antonyms. You have to mug up the vocabulary. So all these examinations are knowledge-based. You cannot get away from the fact that it requires some effort. But again, the good part is that it is not like the state services examination or various other government examinations where you just have to memorize facts and reproduce them, recall them in examination. Here there is a logic to everything that you study. For example, if you come across a historical figure in modern world history, say Thomas Paine, then you don't just remember that Thomas Paine was a British philosopher, you understand what is his contribution in British democratic politics and American Revolution. So if you understand that, then possibly with few revisions, you will always have an understanding of Thomas Paine. But, and it's also, as Sir said, that there is a lot of concession also. Even if you miss out on some acute facts, they will not penalize you. है ना? But कुछ तो याद करना ही पड़ेगा. And not only in history, which optional does not require you to remember? Possibly, I think only mathematics. वहां भी formula याद करने पड़ते हैं.
Steps याद करना.
Steps याद करने पड़ते हैं. So let us be very clear about the requirements of the examination. We have to work hard. We have to be very diligent. We have to be religious, consistent, put a lot of answer writing practice, ask a number of doubts from the faculties. Do not get distracted. and keep doing this until your name is in that PDF. And after that, again, you will have your another set of challenges when you are in bureaucracy. So this examination is choosing the best because they are the steel frame of India, as they say. And the moment you decided to take this examination, you are prepared for this grueling exercise and this path, isn't it? That is why it is the toughest examination.
And by the way, who said it? Steel frame to civil service. You know that? Sardar Patel. You remember the fact. That's what, as I said, that you heard it somewhere. You might not have read it somewhere. You must have heard it somewhere. A lot of facts you just hear here and there. That a steel frame was told by Sardar Patel, and you remember it. This is what the beauty of facts, right? What should be the strategy for last attempt student in this year's GS as well as optional? Give your best. You don't have any other option.
You can write to us also. You can
Yeah.
write to us, email to us if you have very specific academic doubts. We'll be more than happy,
Yeah.
all four of us, to address it. Sometimes it may
Mhm.
happen that in a classroom or maybe in this session, we are not able to elaborate to the extent that you want.
Timsy is asking classes will be on Sunday. Yes, as I told, all 7 days.
We also give recorded videos in case you find that there is an overlap and you have
Yes,
to
yes.
miss out, you are not well.
Yeah.
So we have a recorded video facility, but we would recommend that as far as possible, as much as possible, attend classes live, online or offline, because again, it is all about consistency and discipline, isn't it, guys?
In optional, actually, we don't provide yellow books by Vajiram. That is for general studies, essay, and ethics. In optional, we provide what we have written handouts ourselves, right? And that would be given separately, other than what you are going to take in classes. In classes, as I told, we will not only explain, we will dictate, literally what is called spoon feeding. So many of my professors would be very angry when they heard that we are spoon feeding. But we said, sir, we don't have any other option because the students' demands are such. So whether ethically right or wrong is another debate. But we are literally doing spoon feeding, that giving you complete question answers in dictated forms, right? Because we know that it is very high level competition and we are not in a very ideal world. Then you do not come from the background. Many of you may not have the luck to get best teachers in your schools and college days, and that is where the problem comes in UPSC, that you come from diverse academic background and we have to take care all of you. Like some of you might have studied history, some not. Some studied in a very good college like IITs, Delhi, Bombay, and some might have studied in Noida, very ordinary. I won't name it, okay? They may sue me, right? But I have taught them, and वो लड़का नोएडा के एक ordinary college से all India third ranker भी आया. So that is the great level playing of this exam, that once you are getting right material, right lectures, and of course your right mindset, right? Any other questions you have, please
I
ask.
think they're done.
Done?
Yes.
You exhausted, so I wish you all the best and do well. To see you shortly from 25th of October, and here at 5:30. What
Yes,
would be the time?
5:30.
5:30. Online people, you can also write your comments, whatever, and any questions to all of us. We are ready to share our answers. Thank you. God bless you.